Hi there, folks. This is the WP-Tonic Roundtable Show, episode 207. We already had a very lively debate, folks, off air, so it's going to be a great show, I feel. We've got some great WordPress news stories, and then we're going on to our main topic, how to contribute to the WordPress community, and I think it's going to be a great show. I'm going to let my illustrious panel introduce themselves. So we go with ladies first, and let's start off with Kim.
I'm Kim Shivler. You can find me at Kim Shivler. I tweeted about this yesterday, everybody, so hopefully we'll have some people join us. Jonathan, you saw it. And you can also find me at whiteglovewebtraining.com.
Yes, and I should Twitter it, but I've been a bit engrossed with things. Sally, like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Sally Getch. I'm at Sally Getch on Twitter. My business is WP Fangirl, and my opinions are my own.
Certainly are. And Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Adam from WPCrafter.com, where I make WordPress videos for non-techies. It's the largest YouTube channel about WordPress. You should go and check it out.
Certainly do. Mendel, would like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm going to try not to be weird with my introduction. I failed already. I'm Mendel, and I work at GoDaddy in community, which is great for this show, and work on the GoDaddy Pro project, which is godaddy.com/pro.
All right, that's great. And my great co-host, John, like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Often imitated, never duplicated. My name is John Locke. My business is Lockdown Design, serving up SEO and custom WordPress development for mid-sized businesses. And now from my co-host, Jonathan Denwood, introduce yourself.
I don't have to respond to that. I'm the founder of WP-Tonic, folks. We're a website maintenance support company. We only specialize in WordPress, and we're your trusted partner, aren't we, John?
We build trust for a living. There you go.
I trust you guys.
Yeah, I think if you ask any of the clients me and John have worked with, they're all been happy, which is amazing. Mostly John's work, actually. Right. We're going to go on to our news stories, and we were debating before the show went live, should we talk about the editor and everything that's been said about it, but we're going to, because the panel have some great points. And I'm going to start off with Kim. You had a great point. Would you like to talk about the editor?
Yes, because we're talking about contributing today, and they've put out calls for contributing. They've even made forms to give feedback so that, for example, my audience is predominantly non-technical, like Adam's, and they're not going to know how to use GitHub. And they're just going to give up. So they've actually made some ways that just the general public who is using this for blogging can test it and contribute. And I think that's important to have not just a development take on the new editor and how it ends up being shaped as it goes into core.
I think that's a great point. What about you, Sally?
So similar to what Kim said, there's been a lot of discussion. I mean, clearly people, just in case anyone's missed it, the editor is one of the major focuses of development for WordPress core this year. And we've said many times on this podcast, Jackie isn't here to say it, but we've said it before, you know, the existing visual editor is problematic and needs some improvement. This is what the Gutenberg editor is, what's been proposed to replace it. And it looks visually beautiful. And there's been a broad call to go and test it. And now there's a little handbook for how to do this. And we really do need to hear from more than just the developers, although I think some of them have made important points that, you know, one hopes will be addressed as things go on, but from ordinary people. What is this experience like for them? Because this has been the issue that clients have with, they go into WordPress and they expect it to work like Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever they're accustomed to writing in. And there are some ways in which it simply can't, because the web and print are not the same thing. But there are other ways in which it would be good to be able to approximate that experience more, to have what people are editing look more like what they're going to see, you know, when they publish it. So the more people we can get to use it, who are to test it, who are just like, you know, our clients, our family members, folks who are not technically expert, and just say, what is it like? You know, do people love it? Maybe they will. Maybe this is going to be one of those things, you know, like the customizer that developers aren't that thrilled with, but that actually seem to make things easier for new users. And, you know, we don't want to make it harder for new users. As developers, we can figure things out if they're difficult, and the text editor will still be there. But if it's going to make it tough for new users, then that's going to, you know, that's something that needs to be addressed. And the team building it needs to know.
True. What do you, obviously, Mendel, you weren't part of the panel last week. We had a bit of discussion, but you got any thoughts about what the discussion online about the editors being?
Well, I think everybody is super dramatic a lot of the time with changes, because it rightfully so, because it's everybody's livelihood, right? Like I bring home a salary because, in part, of the WordPress ecosystem. Everybody on this call, I think, makes money from the WordPress ecosystem. The thing I would encourage, if we haven't considered this, is to there are feedback mechanisms that we can use once this gets folded into core. Two things come to mind. One, segmentation. Two, feedback. So number one, what data are we basing this change on? Do we know that there's a huge segment of the population that cares about this? If there's data, great. If there's not, that's not good. If there is and we don't know what the data is, we should see it. If that's been published, I don't know. But that's number one. So figure out what the segment is and cater to that. And then number two is just making sure there are feedback mechanisms in place once this is folded into core, and then users can say what they want to change. Developers can say what they want to change, or what they love about it. I think the storm will pass, and all of us will be less scathed than we think we will be. But that's just the optimism in my world. So
no, I inevitably, I think you're correct. But this is what my tint as a reply to you is that obviously the conversation last week was really driven by another great panelist, Morton from lynda.com, and he put really very logical suggestions about getting data from real users, and that data then should be the bedrock that informed the changes, some of the fundamental changes that are being applied at the present moment. But those suggestions, and I in no way want to speak for Morton, but my observation, those logical suggestions just seem to fall onto deaf ears, and it was decided that this was the path we were going to go down. And as Morton said, no, it's not going to change. You know, the ship has left harbour and it's a super tanker. But I might be a bit English depressive there. I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
Actually, can I respond to that really quick?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to say one other thing, and it's controversial. You heard it here first, folks, on WP-Tonic. WordPress isn't the end-all, be-all of the website building space. Before I was using WordPress, I was using Joomla. Before that, I was using server-side includes. Before that, I was using God knows what, Dreamweaver templates, right? Like, there's a lot of technologies out there. Now, I really, really hope, because I love WordPress, I really hope that that the WordPress project gets steered in the right direction, right? But time will tell, right? Like, I think that Matt has a good sense of what the community cares about, what the industry cares about, and I think ultimately he's going to drive it in the right direction. If he doesn't, then there are other directions, right? That's all I'm going to say. So I love WordPress. I use it for all my sites. I'm a huge fan, and I would say I'm an expert level user, right? But I also know that this is a great big open world, and I think he's marching in the right direction. I think he'll do the right thing. I'm not worried about it, but if he doesn't, there are options.
Yeah, I totally agree. What do you think, Adam?
Well, surprisingly, this is it's kind of a hot topic, not just with developers. Not even 48 hours ago, I threw a video up on YouTube, just a real quick 10-minute video about this. And it's probably one of my highest performing videos in a 48-hour period. I mean, people are watching this thing like crazy, thousands of views on this one video, and the comments are really interesting. The comment section is going crazy because it's mainly the users. A lot of people are really worried and freaked out about this. They're saying, should I even learn how to use WordPress now or wait a year? And of course it's like, no, just start using it now. You know, it's not going to be that dramatic. But I guess a week after using it myself, it just seems like it doesn't fit with everything else in WordPress. It almost seems like they're just improving one area, and it might even confuse, you know, because right now everything kind of looks the same, right? You're in the editor, you're making a menu, you're throwing up some widgets. It all kind of looks the same. Now you're gonna have this one shiny little piece right here. It's like taking an old Toyota and throwing some $5,000 rims on it. You know, those are some nice rims, but it doesn't look like it fits on this vehicle. That's kind of what I think might end up happening. But one thing I wish they would do is, you know, a lot of web apps these days, right? You log in and they'll have like a little feedback thing or something like that. It's probably one of those, either Intercom or some of those different services. They should just pop one of those little suckers in there and start listening, like give people the easiest way to let them know. I'm not going to go to some website and fill out a form. I ain't going to GitHub. I'm not going to do any of those things. But if there's a little button floating when I'm using Gutenberg, I'm going to click on it and say, what's up with this and what's up with that? So I think they could make a lot of improvements on making it easier, making it as easy as humanly possible right then and there to say, this is what is good and this is what works and this is what is confusing.
That was one of Morton's big comments, and he on the WP Tavern wrote a very nice comment that tied in a lot with what we all talked about last week. And that was one of his big ones, is it should be right there, click and let us give feedback right from that dashboard.
So that's great. What do you think, John?
I'll just make this really short. I mean, I do think telemetry is a good idea. Any other product in the technology space would be doing that. They would be trying to get user data, and especially at this sort of scale, it would be unthinkable for any other product to not be doing that at this scale. So, you know, if they decide to do it, great. The other thing, Gutenberg is going in core probably by the end of the year. But what's interesting, a lot of people will freak out about it because it's going to change their workflow. But I think it's our role to get familiar with it now and start teaching our clients that it's coming now, so that they're not surprised, like, what is this when it does drop in core. And so we need to get acquainted with it like now. So, you know, that's my thoughts.
John, hey, listen, I'm sorry. Normally I don't interrupt so many times, but I have one other comment, and that is,
do it.
As a community, right? We're talking about community and contributions this week. As a community, I'm not gonna call out communities that I've seen this happening in.
Sure.
But I will say, the more we argue and the less civilized we are in our discourse, the less people will respect the product, and the more turned off users will be to using the product, right? So I think it's important, whatever the debate is, that it's civilized, that people respect each other's viewpoints, that you debate it, aggressively, right? But that you're always kind to each other, and that you make way for each other's viewpoints, and you try to understand each other's sides, because there's nothing that hurts community more than factions or people within it feeling like they're not being heard or they're not cared about. So just kind of an overarching thought.
Yeah, plus one for civility. I think all the reviews written so far have been, I haven't noticed personal attacks or any of that kind of thing. People are just saying, here are issues, and I think they're serious issues. And as long as we don't descend.
Oh, that's Matt.
I feel you. Just say no to WP drama.
Yeah.
I like that.
I've never contributed to it at all. I've kept well clear of all that. There's enough drama comes your way. You don't have to look for it. All right, I think we've discussed that. Quickly on to the final news story, or what I thought was interesting. It was on WP theming. It was theme shops might be dead. Thoughts on alternative business models. I read it and I thought it was reasonably interesting in some ways. What were your thoughts about it, Sally?
So when I first read it, it was called "Themes Might Be Dead," and I thought, well, that was pretty ridiculous as a suggestion, and secondly, that the article didn't seem to say anything about that. And when I pointed this out, Devin changed the title. And I think if you look at the article as an article, what he's talking about is, well, themes are a pretty crowded space. And if you're thinking of, starting a small theme shop, you're going to have a tough row to hoe. But that where the money might be in the economy is to combine, creating niche themes. He talks about, Restaurant Engine as an example, and sports and that thing, combining the themes with other services like, hosting or e-commerce or whatever is appropriate, to your particular niche. If it's, many businesses, it might need, online booking of some kind. And, if you put those things together and create a service where where your customers don't have to go out and do a whole lot of stuff on their own. They're paying you, monthly fee, ongoing fees for your service and your support, and you're, adding value and you're increasing your income, all of which is great. But you're probably actually going to need either a lot more skills than you might have just to develop a theme, or more people. More people to provide support, more people to provide different parts of the business, and so on. So I think it's a good suggestion, and people who can do this will probably succeed at it. But it's also it's a bigger step beyond just, okay, I've built a commercial theme and I'm going to put it up on ThemeForest or whatever.
Oh, that's great. What did you think, Adam? Did you have time to read it quickly?
Yes, I did, as a matter of fact. And
you get 5 gold stars there, Adam.
Well, I think I'm a skimmer, but for this, I make sure that I do actually try to read at least half to get the main gist of it all. But, I missed the discussion 2 weeks ago that I would have liked to be in about, I guess, leads or things drying up or whatever, or business drying up in the WordPress, whatever call it. I would have liked to be on that, but I think we're just seeing things mature. It's just like any market, the days of being able to put together a poor quality but looks nice on the front end theme and just push it out there and make gobs of money. Those days are just long gone, and that's a good thing, actually. And so what we really have right now is really just the cream rising to the crop type of situation. And there, you know, it's actually not true. You can create a theme and start a theme shop and still make a ton of money, but you have to do it the right way now. You can't just throw it out there and you know, I'm going to create it and people are going to sell it. It just does not work like that. You know, it's been pretty interesting to see. We talked about this maybe a month ago. Enoch from Theme Aisle. Anyways, you know, they had the theme, the whole story of it going in there and coming off and all that kind of bit. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but they did it again. If you look at the most popular WordPress themes, like the one right past like the WordPress ones it's called Hestia. And they're killing it with this thing. And it's just because now you can be as successful as you want to be. You just got to be on top of your game on the marketing side, and you got to make really good stuff. And you've got to, you can make money doing anything as long as you can get people to buy it, right? So, I mean, that's what it boils down to. I'm kind of contributing not from a code level, but from a concept level to a theme. It's WP-Astra.com. You could go there, and this thing's going to make a lot of money because it's coded very well. The word is out there. It's a lot of thought went into making what people want, and it's going to make a killing. It's already one of the top 20 free WordPress themes, and there's an add-on package coming out. So the point being, just like anybody making a theme, anyone can make a theme now, right? You can hire someone on one of them code places and pay them $1,000 and make a theme. But that's only one piece of it. You've got to bring the people in. It's just like anyone can make websites for someone. And no one's going to buy a website from you or a development project from you if you haven't effectively gotten the word out there. You're not really doing the business side of it. So, you know, I like that things are at this place where the cream can rise to the crop, because the stuff that gets the attention is the highest quality stuff.
I think that's great faults, but in some ways, yeah, it's got a lot more competitive. But in some ways, it's always been that way. You look at the history of Studio Press with the two Brians. You know, Brian Gardner, great WordPress theme developer, but without the audience, a copy blogger, and Brian Clark, how far he would have got in building Studio Press, who knows? So having that audience has always been important. What do you think, Kim?
For the theme piece, I think Sally's comment was the best. I read it and I read Sally's comment. Like, she just covered everything. It was perfect. Yeah, it's that's just business. It's not WordPress. It's as things mature. You know, you can't just jump on, create a crap website and be on the first page of Google the next day either, like you could in 2001.
Awesome,
right?
yeah.
It's just things have changed. Or, you know, 1997 when we could get people on Alta Vista like that. It's just, it's all about business growing. So I agreed with all of that. Adam, I did not know you were involved with them, with Astra. That is one of the themes. You guys have heard me complain a lot about themes in the repository that don't meet my standards of coding and use H1 everywhere and that type of thing. Astra is like one of the 5 now that if people want to go to that level, start free, it's up there. So glad to hear you're part of that.
Oh man, I was so worried right there. I'm like, oh my gosh, is that a problem? I'm like, oh no.
You are like one of 5.
He's getting out in the car, I can tell.
You're like one of 5 that I tell my people you're allowed to use that.
I'll get you a free copy of the add-on package.
Thank you.
Oh God. Oh, God.
Awesome
Oh,
thing.
dear. All right, let's go to John, because John looks. What did you think of it, John?
Well, I mean, definitely. I think if you go back 8 or 9 years ago, when Envato was new, ThemeForest was new, Studio Press and Thesis were still kind of getting their traction, that was the golden age of themes, to be sure. Right now, I mean, a lot the money-making things are in plugins. Now, themes can definitely make money if you have something good. For say, if you're one of the top 10 on Theme Forest, or if you have a quality product like Genesis, or as Adam mentioned, what was the name of the
Oh,
theme?
Astra, WP-Astra.com, but it's in the repository.
Okay, well, you know, or even ones like Theme Isle, like they got traction with Zara. If you have something that's good and it gets traction, you can make money. I would definitely say where the future of WordPress Enterprise is going to go is more toward having WordPress software as a service. That's going to be the next thing, and we are already seeing people doing that now. But I mean, definitely there's a place for niche themes. I mean, look at Nate Wright, Theme of the Crop. Building themes just for restaurants. If you really delve down and understand the needs of a core audience, you can still get traction and make money no matter what you do. Like Adam said, it's the cream is going to rise to the top. So
Oh, great, John. Mendel, what did you think?
Generic themes are dead. Vertical themes that are successfully marketed to businesses will win and make a shit ton of money, no matter whether or not they're well coded or not. And developers will continue to gravitate towards ecosystems like Beaver Builder and frameworks like Genesis underscores, stuff like that.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just give my little insight into it, folks. As I was reading the article, I could see where the writer was going, but I wouldn't say I totally disagreed with the article, but I just felt it was slightly naive. I think, obviously, with page builders like Beaver Builder and Divi 3 coming on, a certain individual that's got an eye for design or thinks they've got an eye for design will probably not buy a theme. But the majority of people are looking of the small business environment, are probably looking for a template to start off with, and having a quality theme saves so much time if it's been designed for that particular business, that particular vertical. And then you got the whole argument that some of the most popular themes that I don't particularly like are kind of Swiss Army knife type of themes, but they've been hugely popular. I don't really think themes and people that really know what they're doing are going to go away anytime soon. I think the page builders are really aimed at a subsector of the market that might be very, very large, but in comparison to the whole size of the WordPress market, it's still a niche, really. It's just the numbers are so huge that you get kind of, I'm looking for the right phrase here, slightly delusionary that everybody's adopting a page builder, but that isn't the truth, really. So that's my 1 penny's worth. So I think we're going to go for our break, folks, and when we're going to come back, we're going to be discussing how to contribute to the WordPress community. Be back in a moment, folks. We're coming back, folks. We've had a lively discussion. I've really enjoyed it. Got a great panel this Friday, as usual, but I think it's been a superb discussion. So, Sally, I'm going to start off the ladies. How would you give some advice to people looking to contribute to the WordPress community?
All right. Well, if you are new and or new to the idea of contributing, if you have a local meetup, I know our meetup has a contributor day every year. This year it's in August, and we try to kind of guide people through the contribution process, because it's not simple. I mean, what was really clear last year when we did it was that we needed to add at least an extra hour on just to kind of onboard people to things. People had a lot of trouble, even people who were already using Slack. had trouble getting onto the right, Slack community for Make WordPress, and so there's there's quite a bit of of a learning curve to be able to contribute, but it's important to know that there are a lot of ways to contribute if you are not somebody who writes code. So the first time we had a contributor day, I sat there for 4 hours and answered questions in the forums. I just went and looked, there's a link to like all the things that haven't been answered yet. And you just go through them and say, oh yeah, I know how to answer that one. I know how to answer that one. And you answer it. And so answering questions in the support forum, writing reviews of plugins or themes that you use, not just like, oh, I liked it, but actually to talk a little bit about what you liked about it, or in cases where you weren't that happy, what you didn't like about it that, maybe the developer could improve, because, those people need feedback to make WordPress better. I spent some time last year going through the WordPress Meetup Organizer training. We had people who were working some on the documentation, on the writing side, people who were working on writing the closed captions on for the videos on WordPress.tv, the transcripts for those. Which is, as people discover, it's pretty challenging to do that and quite time consuming. But, it's important because there are a lot of people who can't, who can't hear and need to know what's being said there. And, one of the things that was interesting to me was that, 2 of our higher level developers wanted to work on sort of, patches for core, and they we're struggling to try to get into SVN, because core is still on Subversion. There's sort of a path to it through Git, but most WordPress developers I know use Git for version control, but core is on SVN. So it's I think what's all come out of this is that, and which has been emphasized by the Gutenberg situation, and certainly, testing the editor is a thing you can do to contribute, is that if there is a way to make it easier for people to contribute, to provide their feedback, to get, to set up a sort of step by step, here's what you do for people, that would be a really good thing for the Make WordPress teams collectively to do. I know there's some information there about how to contribute because I've gone and looked for it, but it's not that easy to do. And I think if they want more participation in contributor days, then they probably ought to help with a bit with the onboarding process.
All right. I'm going to ask Mendel, what would you say around that and how people can really contribute to the WordPress community?
Yeah, I'm trying to be concise today. So contribution should be changed in my mind. We should stop using that word. And instead we should say become a more active WordPress community member, become an active member of your WordPress community. Be honest, if you're contributing, be honest with fellow community members about what your expertise is. If you're great at dog walking, I'm sure that there's something that you can suss out in your abilities to dog walk that that can help the project in some way, right? But in all seriousness, if you're great at graphic design, great. If you're great at copywriting, great. If you're great at development, wonderful, right? There's a place for all of that. If you're helping people contribute, ask them about all their talents and define what being an active WordPress community member means, because a lot of the time we don't do that. The people that are doing a great job and being inclusive, getting people involved at larger WordCamps and things like that, they make this a priority, going over all of the different ways to contribute. And then set a goal. If you're if you're a community member, set a goal for giving back, or set a goal for how active you're going to be in the WordPress community. So are you going to go to your meetups weekly or monthly? By the way, that's a contribution, right? Going to a meetup and offering some sort of constructiveness. So go, you know, are you going to contribute weekly? Sorry, are you going to become an active member that helps out weekly, monthly, or quarterly, and set a goal for that? So that's my thoughts.
That's great. I'd just like to comment on that. One thing, folks, is obviously there's a kind of national level, there's a regional level, and there's the local level where you can contribute to the WordPress community. If you don't feel that you got the time to contribute, or it would be effective to the national level, internet, you know, WordPress.org. You can help on the WordCamp, you know, in your city or area, or you can help organise or participate in a meetup. What do you think of that, John? Do you think that's something that people forget, that it's all have to be national, you know, the top, and they forget about contributing on this regional and local level?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Mendel and Sally have already said, and that is, contribution is not just about writing code. There's a million ways that you can contribute. You can volunteer, you know, you can go to your meetup, help people. There's people who come into the meetup all the time, they have questions. That's contributing to WordPress in my mind. You know, just answering people's questions. You know, you can volunteer at your meetup, you know, become a leader there. Just be a leader where you are, and help people wherever you are. You know, definitely you can get involved with your local WordCamp. You know, and as Sally said, you can transcribe videos on WordPress TV. You can, you know, get involved with the theme review team, or, you know, help on the forums. Yeah, that's something that people, you know, forget they can do. Just log in the forums and answer people's questions there. So,
and if you're a professional services provider, you could help a friend who's a small business owner build their website, since you don't make money doing that, right? These are all things.
Yep, these are all things. So
true. What did you think, Adam? How can people effectively contribute?
Well, I actually submitted a speaker topic, is that what they're called, for a WordCamp to the WordCamp US when I am going. I probably have like a 0% chance of actually being chosen, but that's okay. But this was kind of like the topic, but it was a little different in that the more you give, the more it ends up coming right back, and the more you end up getting. And that's something that I believe, and that's kind of been the thought process with my YouTube channel. I'm really there helping tens of thousands of people learn how to use WordPress and solve their problems. I probably respond to 50 comments per day. Thank goodness for Drag and Dictate, because if I didn't have voice dictation, there would be no chance of doing that. But the thought of the topic...
Definitely if I was doing it.
Exactly. Well, you know, the concept of the topic is, by helping people, by contributing, by giving, that actually in a lot of scenarios will help you way more than you're helping somebody else. So for example, I think it was, might've been Sally that said, if you have a blog, you can write articles on your blog that will help people maybe solve a problem, or maybe a review or some feedback on something like that, that gets indexed by Google. People find that they get helped, but then that also shines a spotlight on you if there's something that you do professionally or something like that. If you're for instance, a known WordPress developer, and you maybe have a commercial product and you've contributed to core, you can now say, I've core contributors. It's listed. You got the credit, man. You know, that that I look at that a little differently. I'm like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And I've actually talked to people that have contributed to the core, and that's the first thing they let you know, you know, just to kind of, you know, establish their skills or whatever. So there's a lot more you get out of it than not being selfish, like I'm doing this because there's something in it for me, but it does come back to you. So you're not just throwing your time away or wasting your time helping someone that might not be grateful or contributing to someone that's thankless. It does come back to you depending on how you position it, you know. So I know for me, I'm no coder, but I'll help somebody. And there's lots of places and ways to help people. A lot of times on Facebook, you see my face all over the place in these Facebook groups because I'm genuinely, if someone asks a question or has a problem and I know how to solve it, I'm going to spend 30 seconds and help them. And over time, people now recognize my face. They ask me questions directly. It just goes to help me too. So I guess I'm saying I don't help to help. I help to help me. No, that's not what I'm saying. But there's this concept of it does come back around. It definitely does come back around. And there's lots of ways to help because 95% of us are not coders. We're not going to contribute the traditional code contribution way.
Well, I think that like what the rest of the panel have said, there's many ways to contribute without being a coder. But I also think you emphasize a good point there, Adam, is that I found in the WordPress community, they're very giving. As long as you're showing signs that you're prepared to help yourself, that you're prepared to do it's a learning exercise, but you're not expecting the person that's helping you to do everything for you. And I have had I was an active organizer of a monthly meetup, and you didn't get it that often, but like every every third month you would have somebody new turn up, and they would literally expect us to develop a whole website for them in the evening, and you would just have to say that wasn't really the purpose of the meetup, and you had to disappoint them a little bit. But if you had other people that had problems and it was obvious they were actively working on them, I've never known a meetup where they haven't been given help. What's your feelings around that, Kim?
Absolutely agreed. I'm now actually not near a meetup. I should drive to Orlando, but I don't drive well at night. So driving back at 9 at night, that hour across the swamp is not really good for me.
Well, you got those crocodiles or alligators, actually, isn't it?
Well, it's actually the fog that comes in, and you just can't see. But I agree. That's how I started initially, was going to WordCamps, helping people there, volunteering at the different meetups, etc. I love Sally's point on the rating plugins, rating them, because so many people, and it's, again, especially with my audience, Adam's audience, getting those people as they're learning to rate how the plugin helped or maybe caused a problem on their site is a nice different view than just the hardcore development guys and how they're seeing a plugin. Because if our purpose is democratizing publishing, that's not just speaking to developers, it's speaking to our other audience. So
yeah, and I also think the meetups and the WordCamps have been really a powerful driver to the success and growth of WordPress. Would you agree with that, Mendel?
He's muted.
I know I'm muted. I was just
he's fallen asleep. Actually, I've been boring him. God.
I was taking a second to find the button and being weird as usual. So the WordPress community is successful, I think, because of WordCamps and meetups. I think if those things didn't exist, we would. I'll go as far as to say the market share of WordPress is dependent on those things. If they didn't exist, I don't think, I think that other software would have overtaken WordPress by now.
It's
seems to
really
be
interesting, isn't it,
super important.
It's really interesting, Mendel, that you got a product, a digital product that's, you know, about online presence, but one of its biggest drivers has been person-to-person meetups and WordCamps, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the whole point of meetup.com, is that, you know, it's an online tool for getting people together in person?
Yes. However, I don't know if you've been to other meetups, but there has to be a thread that weaves everything together. The foundation, or whatever their official structure is now, the WordPress community peeps that keep everything together, that's a very, very unique, important, and powerful thing for the software. You know, if that went away, it would also be difficult for us to, you know, maybe the train's already on the tracks, and so it would just keep going. But there's a branding aspect to WordCamps and WordPress meetups, that it's just you know, all in all, it's a really unique thing. If you look at other communities, they're looking at the WordPress community as somebody to emulate. So.
Yeah, and I think another thing, folks, is that we got to be aware of is that almost all organisers of what meetups or WordCamps, they're just looking for people to volunteer to help run those events. But don't be scared. You know, if you just can help out, not every month in running one, but like every third month, almost all organisers will just kind of grab hold of you, because you do have a tendency that like one or two people tend to dominate running them, and they're always looking for other people to help out. Would you say I'm basically right about that, John?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I think there's definitely churn that happens with any meetup group, even if you're a, you know, solo organizer like Sally. I'm sure that she has people that she leans on in the meetup group, and I know that that happens like here in Sacramento as well. As you know, there's the people that always show up month after month. They're kind of the people that the organizers lean on, you know, and maybe eventually they become part of the organizing team too, as you know, as time goes forward. So, you know, definitely, I think you can be a person that helps people and is seen as a leader, even without being, you know, named officially like part of anything. But, you know, just keep showing up and, you know, answer, you know, people's questions, help where you can, do what you can. And that's, you know, really what life's about, not just meetups, but, you know, that's life, you know.
And another thing I think some people don't realise, by actually doing presentations at your local meetup, you know, you get a lot of people that are fantastic coders or great designers, but their presentation skills, or they've got a deep fear of doing speaking in front of groups, and it's a great way of overcoming that, folks, and then moving on to WordCamps, which then can be greatly beneficial to promoting you in the WordPress community and helping your business. Would you agree with that, John?
Yeah, and definitely what, you know, I think like all meetups should be doing as well is, you know, looking for people that they can grow from the grassroots up, because, you know, even at, you know, in a local level, you're going to see the same kind of people who already have that confidence of speaking and are already seasoned presenters. But I think what our role is to do at a local level is find those people who have knowledge to share and get them the practice of presenting to where they can be the people who are at the, you know, at the WordCamp next year, or those are the people who are polished to where they can be the next generation of speakers, you know, because I think that's equally important.
Yeah, and I think we've tried to do that on the podcast as well, John, haven't we? We've tried to mix our guests with people that are very known in the WordPress or outside the WordPress community, but also we've introduced new people, haven't we, John, that aren't so well known, and we've actively tried to do that, haven't we?
Yeah, and that's something that I think we both feel pretty strongly about is, and even with this podcast, to be, very truthful, having a big name versus having a unknown name, there is not a lot of difference, at least with our podcast, with the actual, how many people tune in and listen. There's like absolutely zero difference.
Yeah.
So
I think we're going to round this up. I think it's been a great roundtable, a Friday roundtable show. We've had a great discussion. I'm going to start off with the ladies. Kim, would you like to tell people how they can learn more about you and your business?
You can find me at howtobuildanonlinecourse.com, whiteglovewebtraining.com, and of course, Twitter at Kim Shivler.
Oh, great. Sally, how can people find you and learn more about you?
You can find me at WPFangirl.com. My meetup website is at eastbaywp.com. Or if you are in the Bay Area, just go to meetup.com and search for WordPress. And I'm at Sally Getch on Twitter. And if you can spell my name, you'll find me. I'm unique in Google.
Great. Mendel, how can people find more about you?
Hey, so you can hit me up on Twitter at if you will it. You can also find me on my website, ifyouwillit.com. And of course, if you are helping out small businesses on a regular basis, build websites, go to godaddy.com/pro. There are lots of tools there to help you out.
That's great. Adam, how can people get hold of you?
You can check me out. You can Google WP Crafter or just go to WPCrafter.com and you'll see the YouTube channel and all the good stuff that I got there for you. And if you ever leave a comment on any of my videos, I respond to every single one.
Yeah. Are you going to be sending me a check for promoting your theme next week?
Yes, I think we can actually arrange something.
I'm only kidding. It's English.
That's right. A percentage of those free downloads?
Yes.
Yeah.
Contributing, man. We're just trying to contribute.
Right. And John, how can people get hold of you, John?
you can find me at my website, which is lockdowndesign.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, lockdown_, or like my Facebook page. Just search for Lockdown Design. How do we get a hold of you, Jonathan?
It's really easy, folks. I'm all over the web like a mist. Best ways on Twitter at Jonathan Denwood. On the WP-Tonic Facebook page, we put all the videos on there and add some extra stuff. And you could use the old email. I do reply to most of the emails sent to me, and that's at jonathan@wp-tonic.com. And if you want to really help the show, folks, please give us a review on iTunes. It really does help to promote the show. You have to use the iTunes app, and then you go and do a search for WP-Tonic, and then you can leave a review through iTunes. And if you can do that, we've been getting a couple of new reviews, which is great news, and the show's building again. So it's all great stuff. So we're going to see you next week. What we're probably going to do is we're going to probably continue the recording for a little while after we finish the podcast, which you'll be able to watch on our YouTube channel and on the WP-Tonic website. But for the time being, you've got your twice weekly dose of WP-Tonic, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Right, I can continue. So I thought that was a pretty good debate, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was. Like I say, Gutenberg, I call it Gettysburg.
Or David Bell on Twitter called it Heisenberg.
Oh, that's a bit too
Yes.
cruel. That's terrible.
That earned a retweet.
Yes. Well, it is clever.
Yes.
You're goddamn right.
It's cruel, though. It's cruel. That's cruel. But no, it'd be interesting. I think the only good thing I would say about it all is that I agree with Sally. At the present moment, most of the stuff I've read about it has been civil, hasn't it? I think people have had strong opinions, but it hasn't deteriorated into some of the kind of discussions that some other WordPress subjects have gone into, really. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I see that. I've just been playing with it quite a bit, and I do know for my beginner audience, if it ships the way it is, it's going to be a pretty significant learning curve.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because it's very, like Sally, you were saying, you know, the idea is to get closer to what people are used to seeing, and this is 100% different.
So we did move from incremental releases, or what I would consider a more agile approach to WordPress core development, to feature or feature releases that seem less agile, which is odd to me. And I think some of the blowback on this probably has more to do with a lack of resolution on Matt's announcement about the new development cycles, and some of that is manifesting itself now in the first release, the first major release that has come out of that type of development cycle, right? And admittedly, you know, Matt said he's trying it, right? So you know, if we realize that it didn't work, that the incremental changes were better, you know, maybe we would love this if there were incremental changes that then brought us to this big change. So
Yeah,
I'm
funny.
sure you can get there by incremental changes, and I think that was part of the point of switching out. That, you know, the reason they'd gone to that like 3 times a year release, you know, whatever it is that you've managed to build, was that we'd gone so long between releases, and you know, because they were waiting on certain features. And, you know, on the one hand, it meant that every time there was a new release, it was kind of special. But on the other hand, you know, it was lagging. And I think to make substantial changes, sometimes, you know, you can't do it in, oh, we had a little bit of this and then we had a little bit of that. I mean, I think overhauling the editing experience is a fairly large thing. And I also think there's kind of general consensus that it was not wonderful as it was, because people would be, you know, trying to do things that they couldn't. And so it's, you know, somewhere we need to work out the balance of, is this, you know, making sure that it's usable and that there's a you know, reasonable transition for people who are, you know, they got accustomed to doing it, even if, you know, what they were doing. I mean, I've heard people say that there's some issues with pasting stuff, right? That people who like write their post in Word and paste it into WordPress, you know, WordPress fixed a lot of the glitches there used to be with that some time ago, so that you can usually paste from Microsoft Word without getting all kinds of horrible gobbledygook in your code. But that the way the blocks were currently functioning, you couldn't take a bunch of multiple paragraphs and just paste them in, and that would be clearly an issue for a lot of people. So, you know, it's like, okay, well, we're up against things that need resolving, and maybe, you know, we shouldn't push to get them. If it's taking longer to get it right, then I would think we should delay releasing it until it's functional enough that everyone isn't going to go when it happens. And you know, they've put it out as a plugin, I think, based in part on you know, the whole experience with post format UI, which, you know, I actually quite liked, and which then got yanked out of core at the last minute. And so I would, you know, my recommendation would be for them to, you know, keep working on it until it's really done, and don't put it in until then. And if that means having, you know, that before it's done, there's going to be another, you know, fairly incremental release of something else, fine. You know, I wouldn't hold up stuff that is finished so that we could finish the editor, but I think it needs to be finished before it goes in.
Yeah,
I
I think.
agree with you on that, definitely.
Yeah, funny enough. Sorry. What's that?
That's the cat that wants her own podcast.
A
She's
tail-
in my
Tim's
lap.
telling us a tale over there.
You can't compete with that, Mendel. I got used to it. You can't compete against the cats.
No.
Nancy Mendel, you funny enough, me and John interviewed Chris Lemmer and AJ Morris from Liquid Web, and Chris put me right about that particular one. And the fundamental thing is, either route you go down, he predicted that in like 2 years' time they'll go back to the previous system, and then in 2 years' time they go back to the present system, because either system has its strengths and its weaknesses. So you're in a situation of oscillation. That's what you put to me, and I totally agree with what Sally said. I think it's a good starting, but it definitely has its problems. But what shocked me really, I always thought it was just going to deal with some of the really annoying in-page changes that basic stuff that people need to do that they can't do at the present moment with the present system. But what Moulton pointed out is their ambition is to have a whole kind of page building system that actually gets rid of the need for third-party page builders like Beaver Builder. I don't really agree. If that is the truth, if that is the ambition, I don't actually agree with it. I actually think that is unnecessary, because I think in the third-party ecosystem, you've got such competition that's driving product improvement at such a pace that I don't really think that the WordPress core team really need to bother with that. What do you think, John? Do you think I'm just waffling? Was he gone?
Well, I think if the idea is to replace page builders, we're a long ways off for that with Gutenberg. And an article that I was just reading a little bit ago is Chris Lemmon's article on Gutenberg and how he missed the point of it. And it's something that he said really strikes me. Obvious that they're trying to compete with the page building SaaSes like Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, and Medium. But something that he said really struck a nerve, and that is, if we told people that WordPress was for more than just blogging, and the experience, the way that it is like currently now, it mimics Medium. It really, in a way, it's a little bit of a step in the wrong direction if we're trying to sell people WordPress as being this multi, you can do anything with it type of thing. And I don't see it replacing page builders soon. Maybe, this is the first step and to getting to that goal, but like we'll see if they have the patience to get there, if indeed that is the goal. More than likely, I just see it being rolled into core and it being an experiment, and we'll see if it remains. Some things have remained and some things have been taken away.
But so. I'm correct, John. That's what Moulton said last week. That
Yes.
Their end objective was to replace, which really surprised me. I didn't really think that was the overall plan. And I was quite shocked when he said that, actually, John.
Well, I do think their plan, I mean, if you look at like who their real competition is at this point, like where they don't have the market share, it's Squarespace and Wix and Weebly and stuff like that. And so I do think that, they're trying to figure out like how to make it more like that. Right now, the experience seems more like Medium than anything else. But as we've discussed many times on this show itself, the biggest problem is that when you're in the editor, it doesn't look anything like what ends up on the front end of the site, and that's the biggest problem that still remains to be addressed.
Exactly.
And the new one has not really addressed that at all, and it completely wipes out being able to paste, Sally, if you've played with it at all, because as far as I can tell, since I've been playing with it and getting frustrated, each block is only allowing one paragraph type. So if I have a big thing of text like I was writing and I went to put a heading, everything goes to that heading.
Like Medium. That's dumb.
Yeah,
in my
and
opinion.
that I don't think that that's a good plan for, like you said, saying we're not just a regular blogging platform, we're bigger than that.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Well, I think the pasting issue is an issue whether you're, writing blog posts or anything else. I like the writing experience on Medium, but it's true that there's a certain kind of thing you're doing on Medium. You're trading a number of restrictions for something that looks consistently good across everybody's posts. Yeah. And, there's also a big trade-off you make. Wix is fairly easy to use, but it's really designed for websites that are very simple and don't have a lot of content. And maybe WordPress doesn't want to be going after the I really need a Yellow Pages ad on the web market. I don't think WordPress is a good solution for that kind of thing because there's a burden of maintenance with it. Now, Squarespace is something else again because you have some more sophisticated options, some e-commerce options, some portfolio options, some blogging options. And so to say, again, they restrict, what your choices are, but if we can, but it feels and looks nice to work with. And, that's part of why there are 20,000 page builders for WordPress and so on is to kind of improve that experience of creating things. Somewhere you have to decide where the trade-offs are and how you are going to play to your strengths. And WordPress is challenging because you have kind of the WordPress.com audience, and the WordPress.org audience, and the confusion in between them and that came up at our last meetup is that people don't understand the difference. And Helen Hosendi came out with this, it's kind of like, well, WordPress.com is like going to a restaurant. You don't have to cook, you don't have to shop, you don't have to, but basically, unless it's on the menu, you don't get it. And WordPress.org is like going to the grocery store. You need to find your own recipe, you need to get your own ingredients, you need to cook them in your own kitchen with your own equipment. And you have complete freedom, but a lot more effort. And it is sort of confusing, and yet there are other people who do it. Microsoft does it, right? There's a kind of online office thing that's free that you don't get to install on a computer versus, the actual software. I think that's not a huge heap to be got over, but the idea that one is aimed at people who want something super simple and one is aimed at people who want something more complex. And this was one of those places where I thought it would make sense to use the REST API to have like the simple blogging interface, the Calypso kind of a thing that they've already done very well, and something else that could be sort of a prototype for people who have more customized sites where you're going to have, custom post types and other things show up. And, I don't know that we all want or that our clients want us to, build them a completely custom interface for their site because that's a ton of extra work. And I do think that like your editing experience and your page building experience are not necessarily supposed to be the same thing. Certainly my impression when Matt was talking about Gutenberg or about, working on the editor at WordCamp US is sort of like, well, we're doing three things. We want to focus on three things: the API, the customizer, and the editor. It seems to me that, the editor is about the content you put into something after you've built it. And then, the page builder is about how do I structure the page so that we have, places that we put the content in. And the editor is about, creating the content within each of those areas. And right now, your standard WordPress page has just one undifferentiated area for content. But I'm sure I'm not the only one who's built, templates for clients with something like ACF, where it's like, all right, the content for this area goes up here. And in here you may have a WYSIWYG editor, or you may have, this is where you upload the image that's going to go on that part of the screen, and this is where you put the title, and this is where, how structured, depending on how structured you want to make it. But then you have a sense as you're entering it, where it's going to go and how it's going to look on the other side of the page. And that, a front-end editing experience that actually functioned would, I think, go a long way toward dealing with frustrations that people have now. And that if Gutenberg doesn't address that, or doesn't address bringing in the theme styles so that even if you're not in the front end, you see something that looks more like the front end, then I think it's going to be, missing a lot.
Yeah, but just to wrap up, what do you think, Mendel? Do you think they're going for just more content styling, or they're really going for a solution that really competes with the third-party page building plugin systems?
I think it'll be a long way until they do that, and probably the right answer there is to work with existing page builder plugin experts to bring that functionality in, if that's the truth. But I don't think it's ever going to be as robust as how page builders make it. If it is, it's going to be because third-party plugins augment the functionality. As far as Gutenberg goes, like I'm all ready for it, right? Like I've got automatic updates on my site. Some of them are high traffic. I don't care. I put my faith in the engineers. They're building this stuff. I don't think that all of the feedback from the community is falling on deaf ears. I think by the time it's pushed to core, that we'll all have an experience that is in many ways better than what we had. And I guarantee you, sorry, I'm about to sneeze. I guarantee you there will be bugs. That's just the nature of software, right? So I'm ready for it, baby. If they put it out,
You're ready
I'm
for it.
everything.
You're ready for it, babe. Are you? Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. I think we'll end this recording, folks. It's been a great Friday show, and we'll see you next week, folks, for another Friday roundtable. Bye.
Bye.
Later.